laptop. So I'm always like talking about software synthesis. I work with a lot of audio hardware manufacturers, software manufacturers, and when I've done product demonstrations and things, or talked about my work, and it's always been a computer. So it's actually kind of refreshing to be like, I don't need to bust out my laptop. We don't have to set up a projector, and it feels very organic, kind of cool. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, I'm Richard Devine. I'm from Atlanta. I work actually, well, I've been an electronic musician for many years, and then I'd say over the past 11, 12 years, I've been working as a full-time as a sound designer. So I do a lot of sound design for TV commercials, film, movie trailers, video games. It goes into all different aspects of sound design, to designing sounds for the Note tablet, to working with people like Kanye West. I mean, it's all over the place. And in my work, I'm always seeking like really interesting interfaces, and it could be software, it could be hardware, it could be analog, visual, it doesn't matter to me. I'm always just fascinated by new instruments that give me a wide range of different sounds that I can apply to my music compositions, my tracks, or my projects that I work on day to day. And I met Tony through a community of analog modular builders, because I've been following and been into analog synthesizers for, I'd say, of course, getting the call right now. I'd say in the beginning I started with analog synthesizers, which is really interesting. I kind of went on this path. Like, I got into it, I'd say in the around 1990, 89, I started collecting analog synths at pawn shops, because back then they were relatively cheap, and at that time they were unwanted. They were pretty much ending up. A lot of people were dumping a lot of these old synths during that time because that sound was undesired. They were looking for more realistic, high-quality sounds. They didn't want these drum machines that were trying to emulate a real drum kit, like an 808 drum machine or a 909 and stuff like that. And I was accumulating all this stuff really easily, because I'd just go down Memorial Drive in Atlanta and hit all the pawn shops, and I would literally get stuff for like nothing. So they were giving me stuff. A lot of it was broken, and a lot of it didn't work. But I picked up a lot of cool things during that period that kind of really evolutionized my path through what I do today. And one synth in particular that was had a profound influence on me was the ARC 2600, which some of you may know about. Ben Burtt used it to make the sounds of R2-D2 on Star Wars. It's been used on, everyone from Herbie Hancock to you name it have used this synth. It's a very legendary synthesizer. And what was interesting about it is that it was a modular synth, semi-modular synth with a keyboard, and basically, like Tony's explaining, it's basically like a system. A contained system like this that had built-in speakers, that had spring reverb, ring modulator, and instead of having a knob configuration, the 2600 had these faders that you would bring up. So you would basically patch everything you want into the signal form, and you would just kind of mix in what you wanted at different intervals. And it was really interesting. And I've gotten that synth first, which kind of taught me, I would say, the basic foundations of shaping sound in a way, because I really didn't know much at that time. Like Tony was saying, I was just experimenting, buying pieces of gear, making mistakes, thinking that buying one piece of equipment was going to achieve and get me this one type of sound, and realizing I bought the completely wrong thing. And it was a lot more expensive to make mistakes back then. Now you can just download stuff, or download a plugin or try something out. You can learn about things a lot easier than it was back then, when I was, doing my trials and tribulations. And the interesting thing about the ARP is what opened me up to it, because prior to that I had been buying monophonic synthesizers like the SH-101, Mode Prodigy. A lot of these analog synths that were cool, they had a cool sound, but they had these fixed parameters. So you can only change those sliders or knobs in a certain way, and you would get different sounds out of that system. But at some point, I would reach limitations of that and be like, wow, this is really cool, but this is pretty much, I find my favorite sweet spots of yearning for more and wanting to get more interesting sounds. And when I'd gotten the ARP, I realized that going the modular route was where the real chaos and unpredictability and strange things could happen. And what I loved about it is there were so many things that would change the way it would sound. Like, for instance, the temperature of the room would change the way it sounded completely. I'd have a patch going, and I'd turn up the heat in the wintertime when it was just running, and the patch would just, over the course of 10 to 15 minutes, would morph into something completely different. I was like, whoa, that's changed the tuning of the oscillators, the way that everything's modulating. Just slight nuances would completely, to me, I thought the synth was talking to me. You know, I'd have these alien conversations with my 600, tripping on acid in my garage, my parents' garage with this thing, or, you know, just like, it's like taking me to another dimension, like Ozzy Osbourne when he was in this video with the 2600. It really opened my mind up in so many ways that I never thought possible, and it felt like opening a blank sheet of paper in a way, and not having these fixed rules that I had to work with to make a sound. Instead, I could patch the sound and take things out, subtract or add in that signal path, and make something creative out of that, and then sculpt along the way, shaping the amplitude of the sound, the filtering the sound, rolling off certain frequencies, and then the modulations of the sound, and then of course sequencing those sounds, like Tony was showing you here. So it's basically taking all the same principles of what was being made way, way, way back in the day, and applying that to the technology that we have today to do these really, really fun things. And so in meeting with Tony, going back to my kind of historical, I sold a lot of my analog synths. Like, I unloaded them because I thought, when I started getting into computers, I was like, wow, why would I want to hold on to these synthesizers? I'm just looking for really complex, interesting sounds. The computer is going to do that far more sophisticated processing, far more computations in real time. It's going to do things that are going to be way, way more complex than I'll be able to do any new analog synthesizer. So I sold a lot of stuff thinking that. Went through that for about 10, 11 years, and then finally was like, you know what? I don't think I can look at a computer screen anymore. This is really driving me crazy. You know, I'm missing that tactile, physical interaction with the instrument. I was missing that. And you know, you're thinking, well, it's an instrument. You know, the second that I got into working computers, working in building super collider patches and working in Keyman and stuff, I was programming with a mouse all day. Maybe I'd work with a MIDI controller or a Wacom tablet or, you know, some sort of controller. But you still feel kind of disconnected from what you're doing. You've got this screen and a software environment that's, you know, got these fixed parameters that you're working in once again. And I was starting to kind of want to go back to this. So within the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, I started buying back a lot of the analog synths and had gotten into the Euro rack scene, which is what this format we're looking at today is at. And this came back, and what I loved about this format is we're taking the idea of the whole modular concept, but we're taking it actually a step further. Now you can build your own system. It's not like the ARP 2600, where I only had to work with the ARP oscillators, the filters, and the envelope generators. With this system, you can just buy an empty case and get online and look and be like, oh, okay, well, let me listen to what that oscillator sounds like. You can basically build what I call a Frankenstein system. You build your own custom system. So it's really tailored to your needs. And I found that really, really attractive as a person who really likes to take things apart. I'm always reconfiguring things in my studio and, you know, bowing cymbals and running them through all kinds of weird stuff to get this one crazy sound, you know. And when I met with Tony, I was really, really attracted to a lot of his designs. He's done some really, really innovative things, I feel. Brought a lot of innovative ideas to this format that I've benefited from extremely over the last few years using the system. And I think Kelly had mentioned the MakeNoise record, so they started the MakeNoise series, which is, I think, hanging on the wall over there, the first one. She did a very nice job. You look at us running on it. And the concept was to basically use this system called the shared system that we have here. And I know I was going to show you my patch today here that I performed a variation of last night. Although it's probably hard to see because it's a mess of different cables, and it's going to different places that I could explain simply. And I wanted to have this system up here so that I could refer to things, and that way you can see what input output was going to where. But